However, I think all of these politicians and world leaders are unhinged, Todd. I think they're all kind of following a script. I think the purpose is kind of like a reset to globalize things. And so without going into any crazy conspiracies and being called a conspiracy theorist and all that, I want to leave your audience with some hope. Because I think what we have to be concerned about more so than, Trump taking over Canada or Greenland and all those other, fantastical things that we're hearing about in the media, I think we need to worry about that whole separate country that's coming to annex this place, to take over this world, and that's the kingdom of God. That's Jesus Christ, the King of all kings, who is coming to this world, Todd, soon, literally, descending upon this world with his kingdom. And so I think we need to set our eyes on that. So I would encourage people to read their Bibles, to get back into God's word, and if we follow his ways, get back to the ancient path of keeping his commandments, we will do so much better.
Babe.
Yeah.
If we ever have a boy, a son in our future, what do you want to name him?
Zion.
Zion? I'm naming him Zion.
Fine. Enoch.
No, we're not naming him Enoch either.
Enoch. So let it be written, so let it be done.
Babe, no, you always get your way. You're not gonna, this is something we have to compromise on.
Not my way. Yahweh.
Shalom, shalom, family, and welcome to Hanging on His Words. My name is Ken Heidebrecht, and I thank you for joining me for this live stream. It's going to be a chilled, relaxing live stream, one where I get to interact a little bit, hopefully, with some of you Kingdom family of mine in the live chat, and hopefully maybe after the live stream's over, with whoever leaves comments behind. I always enjoy interacting with people around the feast days, and so I appreciate everybody's well wishes leading up to Passover and unleavened bread, because this is what it's all about. It's about the celebration, the memorialization, if you want to put it that way, of Passover and unleavened bread. It's a commandment of God that has been instructed to God's people as an eternal ordinance. And so I take that seriously here at Hanging on His Words. If you're new to this YouTube channel, we teach that the commandments of God are applicable for your discipleship. It's what Yeshua, Jesus Christ, the Messiah, God's only begotten Son, did. It's what he participated in. And it's what he taught his disciples and everyone else he interacted with to participate in as well. And so I consider myself to be a 21st century disciple of our Messiah, even though I don't get to literally walk around and follow after him like the 12 of them did in the first century. I get to glean the truths of his wisdom by studying and engaging in writings that faithful men have left behind for us and have copied and have endured the test of time for centuries and centuries. And so God's love has permeated through all generations in that matter, and his grace and mercy is reflected through the fact that we get to read about and get glimpses into the life of his only begotten Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. And so I'm thankful. I'm super thankful. Today was a good day for me. Yesterday was the memorialization itself of the Passover event. And so for those of you who have been following this channel and who adhere to the solar calendar, that would have been celebrated yesterday on the calendar. And today, well, actually, technically, last evening, it would have been the transitional period into unleavened bread as well. So Passover, unleavened bread, they're synonymous terms in a way. They're used interchangeably and have been throughout history. And so when you say Passover or Passover week or unleavened bread, it's referring to the festival, the 7-day festival, with the Passover itself starting at the front end of that 7-day festival. And so we started ours yesterday. my wife and I, we had a simple meal between ourselves of lamb, and we had some potatoes and some vegetables. We kept it quite simple this year. The congregation that we interact with as often as we can locally, we are celebrating with them this coming Sabbath. And we chose to do so because we're all on different calendars, and which makes things fun and frustrating at the same time. So we decided to be mature adults and put our heads together and said, when can we put our differences aside, or our calendric differences aside, and decide upon one day that suits all of us, so we can just get together and participate in this Passover event and really reflect on what it means, in that communal setting. And so we chose this coming Saturday to do that. And so I'm excited to be doing that with my local congregation. It's, if you don't have a local congregation or people in your area where you can fellowship with in person, I highly recommend you look into that. I realize that people live in different communities, different countries, depending on where you're watching this live stream from. Most of my audience is from North America, particularly in United States of America. And so there's a lot of congregations in the US. It's surprising. We have access to a couple different fellowships, or ministries rather, who have provided us with fellowship finders, things that you can go online and search to see if there's anyone in your area who has interest in the same type of covenant keeping as you have. And so when you pull that up, it's surprising how many people are actually relatively close by to where you live. And so if that's you, if that's somebody, if you're someone who's watching who maybe just started keeping the feast days, if this might be your first Sabbath or second, I would look into those resources. 119 Ministries has a fellowship finder on their website, so I strongly recommend checking that out. You just type in your address, and then it just kind of populates on the map, and it shows where people are located in proximity to where you're located. So there's that ministry. There's Kingdom in Context. They have an app where they also have that type of a program where you do the same thing. You type in where you're located, and it populates, and it shows who's around you. And so strongly recommend you do that. There's nothing greater than actually being in the flesh with other believers who are like-minded in that manner and participating in these amazing festivals that we are commanded to keep together. So I hope people have been able to do that. I realize that this calendar in particular, this Creation Solar calendar, or the Zadok calendar, the Enoch calendar, it goes by many monikers, has a couple different twists to it. There's a couple different ways that people observe the calendar, I guess you could say. And there's been several people who started it last week. I wish them well. I hope they had an amazing Passover. Unleavened bread, I guess, would be ending technically, I guess, today. So I hope people who adhere to that calendar had a wonderful experience. I hope it was joyful and meaningful for you. And for those who are just starting, I hope it was a good Passover last night. I hope unleavened bread is kicking off well for you as well. I'd love to hear in the chat who's been participating, what you had. Tell me, what do you guys have? What do your meals look like? I always like to see different meals and get different ideas so that I can be creative with my own meals in the future. So let me know in the comments and in the live chat what you guys cooked up. I'd love to hear it. And also just what unleavened bread looks like for you. I'm not going to go into particular details tonight's live stream with regards to how to keep Passover or unleavened bread. I actually have a couple videos over on my channel if that interests you. If you want to learn more, get into some of the minutia of how to keep the commandments, the feasts. There's a few different videos. One of them, you just type it in the search bar in my channel, how to celebrate Passover and unleavened bread. it's, hopefully it's palatable for you, because it's only a 22-minute video. I try to keep these relatively short because I know people's attention spans are short. So, there's that video for you to check out. And another one related to unleavened bread is called Abraham Offered Isaac on Unleavened Bread. So that's an interesting little video, short video, 12 minutes long. And then another one, Do What in Remembrance of Jesus? Was the Last Supper a Passover? I highly recommend that one. It's just over 30 minutes long. And then tonight I'm going to be touching on the timeline that I provided in my video, Timeline, Death, Burial, and Resurrection. And so I'm just going to briefly discuss that. I'm going to pull it up on screen, the graphic itself, which is able to be downloaded as a PDF on my Patreon page. So for those of you who aren't aware, scroll down on the page. I believe it was for everybody. You don't have to be a member there. I'm pretty sure I left it as public. So if that interests you to see kind of what I put on screen tonight, the timeline, go ahead and download that PDF over my Patreon page. And that information is talked about in long form in that video that I just mentioned, Timeline, Death, Burial, and Resurrection. It's about a 35-minute video. And so I go over the details in great significance in that video. So if that interests you, check it out. But yeah, let's say hi to a few people in the chat before I get started. We have Miss Carmela Lazarus here saying, woohoo. Shalom, sister. She's saying happy Passover and unleavened bread. Thank you, sister. Appreciate you for coming. You're an awesome sister. Miss Carrie Ann Carson is saying, yay, happy Passover. Yeah, right back at you. Passover is great. That's the amazing thing about our Heavenly Father. He, part of his burdensome commandments is to keep feasts, to celebrate feasts the way he wants them to be celebrated. And so, I don't know. That doesn't seem burdensome to me in any manner. Who else we got in here? We have Devin Horner saying Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Hope everyone has a blessed day of unleavened bread. Shalom. Appreciate you, sister. Yes, today is a Sabbath. So, the first day of unleavened bread as well as the last day of unleavened bread. Those are considered Sabbaths. You are to do no laborious work, anything that brings in an income for you, anything that would require your maidservant or your menservant in your household to work. You don't make them work. You rest and you feast and you eat unleavened bread. Pretty cool stuff. Jeff Porter here saying happy Passover. Shalom, brother. Appreciate you. It was a good Passover. Shalom, brothers and sisters. ... Shalom. Carmela, Jess, and Asher are doing great. Doing really good. Asher's on the move a lot now. For those of you who do not know, my wife is now entering her third trimester. And so we're really excited. Our son, Asher, is moving around. He's kicking. I think he's eager to enter into this world that the Father has created for him. And so we're excited for the day that happens. So we're hoping, there's no early surprises and overly late surprises. You never know what happens with that type of stuff. But if everything goes as planned and our calculations are correct, it should be the end of June, sometime early July-ish. So it's coming. It's coming, and we are really looking forward to it. So thanks for asking, Carmela. Appreciate it. She's doing well. Firm for Truth saying shalom. Shalom. Appreciate you. Miss Donna Porter is here. Shag Samach family. Yes. Happy Pesach to you guys. Hope you and Jeff had a really good time. Miss Sandra Mars here. Blessings and love. Shalom, sister. Appreciate you. Brother Gary. Passover is a meal. Yes, it is. It is a meal. It's a good one too. And there is specific instructions for how that is to be cooked and dealt with. So again, you can go over my video. There's lots of videos, I'm sure, online, but go to the scriptures themselves and find out how Yahweh instructs us to eat the meal and how to cook it and all that and prepare it. Pretty simple. Dragonfly65 saying wonderful. GR Cleaves here. Shalom, y'all. Shalom, guys. I'm assuming you celebrated last week. I'm not 100% sure. If you did, then I hope you had an amazing time. Hope Passover was great for you. If you were in charge of cooking, Brother Bob, you oh my gosh, you made a good meal. I know you did. Same with Glenna. From what I've heard, if the rumors are true, you probably belong on a Torah Master Chef or something like that. Brother Josh is here saying, sweet, just caught part of Sean's stream and now Ken's. Yeah. Did Sean stream? Yeah, he probably did a what did he do? Did he do one with Lindsay? I'm not sure. I missed it if he just streamed. But yeah, thanks for joining in, brother. Hope you're doing well. I love you. Hope your family's doing well. Hope your wife is gestating healthily as well. Looking forward to it. Who else we got here? Yes, I got to pull this one up. Brother Gary, calendar is not a hill to die on at this point. People have to find that on their own. I agree. 100%. I will never make it a hill to die on. Never, ever. There's just a couple hills I will die on, and that is definitely not one of them. So with whatever calendar you're using, I know, as long as it's got the feast days on it, you're good with me. Dahlia is here saying, here from Sean's Live. Shalom, brother. Okay, yeah. Awesome. Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate you. And thank you for your little package that you and Wes had sent together. Really, really awesome seats you guys made. If you don't know, Miss Dahlia has, I don't know if you call it a little side business or whatever, but Sweet Zeets is what she's called it. And it's a neat little logo as well. And she makes seats. And Brother Wes, I believe he does that as well. So super cool. Cool couple. We love you guys. Hope you're doing well. Hope you guys had an amazing Pesach. Tracy Jones, Shabbat Shalom, dear brave believers. Hey, sister. Buck99 here saying shalom. What did you guys have? Let me know. Let me know in the chat here. Maybe I'm just not caught up yet. I'm interested to see what kind of spreads y'all had. Casey from Gold. Howdy, Ken. How's it going, brother? Howdy doody. Beta Bear is saying shalom. Shalom, sister. Hope you're doing well. You were a fellow Canadian over on the other side of the continent or the country. Hope you had a good one. You're a few hours behind me. Who else is here? We have Country Fun. Hello, everyone. Shalom, Sam. Appreciate you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hope you and Matt had a good time, a good meal. Jewel Junction. Shalom, family. Hey, brother. Appreciate you. Hope you guys had a great time. Robert Daniels is here. Howdy, Ken. Just jumped over from one of the other councils. Nice to see you. Yeah, awesome. We're providing you guys with all this entertainment, right? You know, from Sean and me. It's great. Excellent. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. Guys, if you like this channel, hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you aren't already. I would appreciate it. I do release content here from time to time. Not as active as I used to be years ago. You know, things change in life. But I do plan on continuing to be consistent, doing more live streaming and creating more of my normal video productions. And I'm working on a CD right now. It's going well. So if you guys like it, show some love with the thumbs up. Share this content with your family and friends on your socials if you wouldn't mind. Appreciate it. Sig's here. KIC moved the chat to you, Ken. Love you, brother. Love all the brother. Oh, did he? Yeah, awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you, Sean. If you're listening, if you're here, Sean Lindsay. Deanna Gone is saying she's coming from a live with Kingdom in Context. Awesome. Great channel. Good friend. Very studious. very spirit-filled believers there at that channel. I love them. Really good friends. We've been through a lot over the years, and I'm happy to be doing this stuff with Sean and Lindsay. They're awesome. What else we got? Scotty Fleming. Hey, brother, thank you so much for your calendar work. My first Passover this year has been so incredible. Awesome, brother. My pleasure, man. It's good to hear. Hope it was a blessing. I hope you continue doing it, year after year. Year after year until Yeshua comes and he does Passover in the kingdom, right? It's one of the statements he said during his Last Supper. We'll get to that tonight. That he won't be drinking from the fruit of the vine until everything's accomplished. And that celebration is upheld in the kingdom when he comes with it. So it's awesome. We'll continue doing it in honor of him. So that's what he said to do. Do it and do this being Passover, right? A lot of people think that Jesus instituted something brand new with this Last Supper. A lot of contention behind it, different theories, different viewpoints on what it is that they're doing there that evening, just before, the whole Garden of Gethsemane events, and Judas comes and betrays him, and, off to the next day when he gets crucified. What is this Last Supper event? What was he doing there? Well, I think the text is pretty clear if you keep it in its context. And he was having a Passover meal. He was keeping the law of God, and he said to continue doing it in remembrance of him, right? Because a lot of the things within the Passover celebration foreshadows him, right? There's a lot of allegories and metaphors that point to him and how, he accomplishes everything and will accomplish things in the future. And so we get to keep the feast knowing that everything that he's accomplished and will accomplish is tied into that keeping of the feast too. So that's what makes it new, right? There's nothing really new about the feast itself. It's just that, we get to honor Yeshua in the process, whereas they didn't do that before. So it's pretty cool. Say hi to a few more people, and then we can get going to what I had planned this evening. Okay, so we have Van Hap saying grilled lamb on the grill. Awesome. Excuse me. Grilled lamb on the grill. Man, it doesn't get better than that. We have a buddy at this congregation that I mentioned earlier who raises his own sheep and goats. And so we've had Passover with them for a few years now. And he keeps the commandment. He'll wait till it's a 1 year male lamb, unblemished and all that stuff. And he'll do his thing with it, and we'll eat it, and he'll cook it over fire, and it's really good meal. And you can actually have goat. You can have goat too. It's what it says in Exodus, right? You can have a lamb from the sheep or the goats. So apparently lambs is also applied to the goat kind and not just sheep. I didn't know that for the longest time, but yeah, we've had goat too, and it's a good meal. It's good meat. I prefer a sheep over goat personally, but Carmela says she had lamb chops, roasted potatoes, unleavened bread, and blueberries. Yummy. Very nice. What else we got here? Jared Cleve says that they got to celebrate with Jane Frisch. Yeah, she's awesome sister. Super kind. That's great to hear. Tony Chapman had lamb and endives on the grill. Cool. Very cool. Dahlia said we had lamb balls, unleavened bread, rice, melted butter with rosemary, oregano, parsley, and some salad. Nice. Everything goes well with melted butter. That sounds good though, lamb balls. I like that. And of course, guys, we're scattered amongst the nations, and so we can't necessarily keep some of these particular instructions regarding, you got to hold the lamb itself on the 10th day of the first month for 4 days until it's to be slaughtered in the evening on the 14th day of the first month. I don't have I don't have a figure, like a literal lamb that I can do that. And so a lot of people can't keep the instructions exactly like that. Just we're, in modernity, we just can't do it that way. But for those of you who are farmers and have the ability to do that, you can. And that's awesome. You can keep the commandment even that much better, that much more accurate. My wife and I, we just went to the butchers and got some lamb. We didn't hold it for 4 days, but we had the lamb. I think that's what matters. And it's a memorialization, right? We're just practicing this stuff. We're keeping it the best way we know how, in honor and in the spirit of the law itself, right? So I don't harp on people when it comes to this type of stuff, right? Especially people who have just started it. You keep it the best way you can, best way you know how. And I think that the Father will honor us in doing so. Tracy's saying your videos are great. Thank you, sister. Appreciate you. Shabbat shalom. Hope you had a good day. And Devin had ground lamb with rice and unleavened bread. Yummy. Nice. Ground lamb's great. Jewel Junction had leg of lamb and yes, mashed potatoes. Hey, mashed potatoes is awesome. It goes well with everything. Josh is saying, I can say the feasts have been such a surprising blessing. There's such a peace and joy that come with them and the remembrance of why we do them and what they point to. Yeah, exactly, brother. Exactly. Well stated. All right, who else we got here? The Lawn Man. Okay, this one's interesting. A 1-year-old Katadin black belly mix. Don't think I've heard of that before. Was delicious. Cooked on an open fire. Picked him 4 days ago and prepared him at 3 yesterday and after dark. Awesome. Awesome. I'm going to have to Google that real quick. What does that look like? Katadin. What was it? Black belly mix. What does that look like? You guys got to Google it. I'm not going to pull it up. Oh, cool. Very cool. It's a very specific description. I like it. Tracy's saying, for those new to lamb, roasted over the fire makes all the difference. Yeah, if you can get fire involved in some manner, it does. It really does. We tend to use the barbecue. I'd like to 1 year set up a bit of a we have a fire pit, and I'd like to kind of put a slow roast pin over it and do it that way. I have a buddy, like I said, who is part of our congregation who smokes it, and so those are always good. He smokes it for however many hours it is, but it's super good. What are some of your family traditions, guys? What do you do? If you've got kids, even, what kind of stuff do you guys do with them? I'm eager to know. I seriously want to write things down. I want to be creative and make it fun, make it a memorable experience for my children when they grow up in these feasts. And so I'd love to hear what everybody does to keep things a little more fresh, a little more lively, I guess. KMSR 1700 AM saying shalom, brother. We hope you have a happy Passover. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hope you guys did too. I'm assuming you guys did it last week already. Haven't looked into those videos yet. I will. It is on my list. It's at the top of my priorities of things to look into, honestly, because calendar studies is near and dear to my heart, and I can't put that one off. But I am going to be looking into that a little more to see, what people say regarding the whole Zadok Dead Sea Scroll claims. I want to look into that. Deanna is saying, thank you so much for sharing the calendar you created. It's so appreciated. Of course, sister, not a problem. It's a blessing for me to do so. It's good to see you guys in here. Honestly, it really is. It's awesome to see so many folks participating and getting excited in a world that can stress you out. Can stress you out big time. And so, yeah, these feasts are needed. They're like a mental health reset. At least it was for me. You got people from work just complaining and fear mongering and, talking about the latest stuff going on with all these tariff and the whole, tariff wars. And, just my line of work, I interact with a lot of different people in different spaces, different businesses and stuff. And so because I'm a type of person who likes to kind of chit chat, while working and stuff, while I'm interacting with people. That's just been the thing of late, right? The last couple months is just the fear, United States is going to take over Canada, and we got to vote the liberals out, and and the tariffs are going to destroy this, and our investments are tanking, and what are we going to do? We're going to go ahead and recession, like all of this stuff, right? And it can be hard. It can be challenging to navigate all the stuff, all the fear porn, and not let it affect you in some manner. And so, when we have these feast days, it's just a reminder of you're forced to be reminded about who is the King of Kings. One of the things my wife and I have done over the years, participating in Passover in particular, is we'll watch the Ten Commandments, the old school version, Charlton Heston, Yul Brynner. And it's just good to be reminded of those stories, even though the actual films themselves aren't 100% accurate, it's just a visual reminder of the biblical stories and how they're not stories, they're real events. They're things that we put our faith in, that we trust literally happened. And we believe the things that were spoken about within those events are going to come to fruition. The promises that are made in those scriptures are going to come to fruition, right? And so the world can do what it wants to do, right? The world, as we know, is controlled and owned by a different kingdom outside of God's kingdom. And so the ruler of that kingdom is hell-bent on keeping us stressed and depressed, scared, fearful, worrying all the time, wondering, what the future looks like. What are we going to do? But then we're reminded through the events talked about in the New Testament with Yeshua, right? Being the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and how he's coming with a kingdom, and how he's promised that he wouldn't leave us or forsake us, and that, we will have trouble and tribulation in the world, and that the world will hate us, but they first hated him, right? And so all this is like a package deal with being a believer in Yahweh Most High and having faith in his son Yeshua, our Messiah. And so when we watch these videos and when we participate in these feast days, it's just a reminder for me that, hey, you're not just, this isn't just religious rote. This isn't just going through the motions here. Just cause it's not a tradition for me. That's empty and vain and meaningless. This has, this is alive. This is a promise. This is a covenant act that reminds me of what's to come in the future. And so it recalibrates my my outlook on life. it puts things back into the distant background. You know, the bad things that come at you in life, the things that the stress, the worrying, the finances, the this and that gets shoved back into the background where it needs to be. And I'm reoriented. And so I need these feast days for not just that, but it helps. It helps me. And maybe some of you guys can empathize with that. Maybe you have no idea what I'm talking about, but I think the harder that it gets for us as life moves on, and as the kings of the world and their controllers continue to do what they do, we gotta lean into these feasts and these commandments, these instructions that our Heavenly Father have given us harder and more seriously. And so I'm planning on doing that until my last dying breath. And I want to encourage you guys to keep doing it as well. Keep running that faith race. All right, that was a little tangent there. Let me see who else we got in here. Next Level Solutions HVAC saying you're getting a KIC raid over here. Yeah, they sent all you guys my way. Appreciate it. I know it's an odd time probably. Right now it's 7:40 p.m. my time, and you guys are probably a couple hours behind, and so supper's approaching, which is fine. You guys got to go eat. I get it. I'm here mainly to hang out, see what people are up to, and then go over the timeline, because it's a topic of interest. A lot of people want to know, what took place that last week, that week where Christ was crucified. What day did he die on? Does the math properly with the 3 days, 3 nights assertions in Scripture? What day did he resurrect? Can we get this stuff to align on a calendar? Because there's different timelines out there for people to consider. And so I have one on myself, and I created a video on it, like I said earlier, and I have a graphic for that as well. And I'll pull that up in a second. But I'm just having fun interacting with people here, just seeing what people have done. Back to sound. Doctrine says fish fillet with salad and rice. You had fish? Okay. All right. I would recommend, if you could get a hold of lamb, to do that. But I think one of the first Passover meals I ever participated in, that was in 2012 or 2013. The congregation there that I joined in, I was such a newbie. I was just so passionate, and I was willing to just, participate in whatever. If you took part in Passover, I'm there. I don't care how many traditions are, mixed into the event. I don't care. I don't understand it. As long as, you're someone who claims to keep Passover, I was there. And I think the first thing we had was chicken. That was the Passover meal we had, was chicken. So I get it. We can't all get lamb, but if you can get a lamb, I would highly recommend going that route. Tammy Vavold is saying, my daughter was the chef as I had a full day, but autocorrect makes the meal sound a bit more interesting. Nice. Shalom, Tammy. Appreciate you. Hope you and your family had a good day. Brother Gary saying it's his 9th true observance. Awesome, brother. Good for you. It's like I said, 2012 I think was the 2013. Yeah, it was the year my wife and I met. And what are we at now? Was it my 12th one now? I don't know. Something like that. You lose count. Doesn't matter. It's awesome though. They get better. As you understand the instruction more, and as more people wake up, you join in with them. It's good stuff. Well, who else we got in here? Okay, we have Despierta Pueblo de Israel. Shalom. My first time celebrating the feast. It was great. Thank you for the help with the calendar. Awesome. Good stuff. Love hearing it. Keep doing it. Cleve says lamb over goat any day. Yeah. Goat's a little tougher. It's a little more chewy and gamier tasting from what I remember of it. Okay, I'm way behind in the comments here. I gotta move it down a bit here. No glory on my name said red wine on the lintel and doorposts and lit the menorah. Awesome. So that's a tradition you do? You put some red wine on the lintel and doorposts? Because yes, that was one of the commandments. While Israel was in Egypt, right? It was to keep the death angel from passing over their domains, and so it's good. It's that would be a neat tradition. That's definitely, I don't believe it's a commandment per se. Moving forward to when they went out through the Exodus to Mount Sinai, and then the law was given to Moses there. I don't think that's a commanded part of it, but it's definitely a cool aspect that you can involve in your Passover unleavened bread feast, because I'm sure it'll get the kids at least asking questions, and then you can reenact the whole thing, right? It's great. However you can get kids asking questions and getting involved, getting them excited about God's word and keeping commandments, and just do it. Dahlia says involving them in making the dough for unleavened bread is always fun. Awesome. Absolutely. I want to try that. We normally get unleavened bread like crackers or whatever. We haven't actually tried to make our own bread. I think I'd like to try that soon, though. Phil Henry is asking me a question about what I'm doing after the paramedic gig. Well, after the paramedic gig, I retrained, went back to school, and got my medical laboratory assistant. And I did that for about a year and a half. Then the pandemic took place, and they started to mandate all healthcare workers in Canada to get the experimental medicine. And so I decided not doing that. So from there, I had to transition. It took me about a year to get into something serious, but right now I work for a company where I do document destruction. I say it that way because it sounds cooler, but really what I do is shred people's confidential paper. And so I go to different businesses or residences, and I drive a really big, cool truck that can shred the paper rather quick. That's what I do now. My boss is great. They didn't discriminate against any of my medical decision making. When I went through the interview with them, they were fine with whatever I wanted to do in that regard, and they've never harassed me or bothered me about any of that stuff. And it's been good. So I'm blessed where I'm at right now, and it works. Country Dad says he watched it last night. I'm assuming that's the 10 Commandments. That's awesome. Robert Daniels likes the 10 Commandments as well. Yeah, I think it's a lot of people's tradition. I mean, why not, right? Super applicable. I remember when I was a kid, there's probably going to be some stories in this live stream, guys, so just bear with me. When I was a kid, we would go to my Oma and Opa's. That's my dad's parents. We would go there for Easter. The whole family would gather there. And after dinner was had, I would go to the TV room and turn on the TV, and 10 Commandments was always on. And I'm from Southern Ontario in Canada, and so I don't know if that was just what they did, what that particular broadcasting company played every Easter. I don't know if it's still going on. I would assume not. But I would go to the TV, and instead of mingling with the family, I would watch Moses go through the Red Sea. I would watch all that, and I was just so drawn into that story. I loved it, and year after year until my Omanope passed away, I would watch that movie after the supper was over. And so I wondered, why is this, for years into my teenage years, even into my 20s, I always wondered why are they playing this story during Easter? That's weird. What does it have to do with Easter, And then, as you look deeper into things, you start to realize that, yes, the Exodus and Moses and Israel leaving Egypt, keeping Passover, getting out of the bondage of Egypt and heading to Mount Sinai to worship the Lord, that's all related to this season that's wrapped up in and around Easter. It's Passover, really. So that's the irony in that. I always had an interest in that. Thought it was really fascinating, and here I am now, watching that same movie, but in the context of keeping Passover. So there we go. Started young, and always loved that movie. And I also always loved. I have kind of Germanic, Ukrainian / Russian roots. I always loved this bread, this pastry that my aunt would always bake and bring to the meal. It was called Pascha, Paskha, I believe is how you spell it. And it's a very leavened bread, a very puffed out bread with like icing and sprinkles on it. It's like a sweet bread, and we had that during Easter as well. And it's just funny because the root of where that bread, where the name is derived, is from Pascha, or the paschal lamb, right? And so, when you take it all the way back to its proper context, it's just funny because a bread like that, that's so leavened, that puffs out so much, is had in and around the time of unleavened bread, when we're commanded not to eat anything with leaven in it. So it's just funny. But yeah, that was part of my growing up in and around Easter. Yeah. ELOAA Ministries saying, I think the 10 Commandments comes on this weekend, ABC. Yeah. Okay. So they probably still do it. I think it's great. All right, guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to go down a little bit here. Kingdom in Context saying, Shabbat Shalom. Shalom, brother. I heard you guys live streamed. Hope it was a good one. Hope you had a good time. I know you had a good Passover meal yesterday with Lindsay. It's great. Love you guys. LVK saying, we are doing Pesach this weekend with grilled lamb marinated in a Greek yogurt masala. Okay, now you're talking my language, with bitter herb salad and cheriset, chopped apples, cinnamon, and walnuts. Walking staffs by the door. Nice. Very good. Love that. I love that marinated. It's got my mouth kind of watering right now. It's great. Deanna is saying, the world is so loud and distracting. These feast days, along with the weekly Sabbaths, are such a peaceful, joyful blessing from Yahweh. Yeah, amen. I'm glad you're experiencing that too. That's awesome. Today, my wife and I woke up. We had a breakfast, and then I read several chapters out of John, starting with, the whole Last Supper event leading all the way to the Garden of Gethsemane. And so we had a little mini Bible study, and we walked the dog. We came back and we watched The Passion of the Christ. And it was the first time we've done that in our marriage. I mean, I've seen The Passion of the Christ several times in my life, but I never watched it in the context of keeping Passover. And so, yeah, we watched that, and my goodness, that movie is powerful. I know there's some things in it, just like any Christian, movie or show, that doesn't line up with scripture. There were some artistic licenses taking place there, but for the most part, Mel Gibson did a really good job with it. And I tell you, not many things make me cry, but the scenes with Christ on the cross and just, what he had to endure um, for the likes of me, a sinful man. It gets those tear ducts opening up. You know what I mean? Like it's just, it's hard not to get emotional watching that. And so, yeah, that happened to me today. But I remember when I was a kid, again, going back to my childhood, my parents brought us to one of their family friends' houses, and they were having like a board game night or something like that. And I think it was in and around Easter time because they had I can't remember which Christ movie it was. I don't remember which one it was called, but one of the more famous ones. Older though, and they had that playing, and so I excused myself from the dinner table and went to go watch that in the rec room in the basement. And I remember it was just coming upon the scene where Christ was getting crucified. And I remember watching this. I think it was like, what was I, 6 or 7 years old? I was young. And I remember just seeing that scene, and it took the breath out of me watching it. Like yeah. And I started just weeping and breaking down. And I remember my dad coming down into the room and him, he thought, what's wrong? What's wrong? Why are you crying? And he saw that, it had to do with what I was watching on the TV there. And yeah, it, ever since that moment, it changed. It was like a paradigm changer for me for how I looked at Jesus Christ, even though I didn't obviously understand the implications of that, the metaphoric sacrifice and what he went through. I remember just going through life vividly thinking about that image and how someone could love me so much and endure all that pain and suffering on my behalf, because he loves me. And so, yeah, that was a monumental time in my life for sure. And it helped kind of shore up my faith from a very young age, even though, I strayed and went astray and played the rebellious teenage kid for years. But little moments like that really were impactful in my life. What else we got in here? I'm really rambling on. It's almost an hour in. I wasn't expecting to be this engaging with the live chat today. I just felt like I needed to see what people are doing. I need that interaction. I need that uplifting aspect of this online community, because I know there's a lot of people out there that have enjoyed interacting with me and supporting me and being part of this spiritual community online. And so I just I want to see what you guys have to say, what you've been experiencing, and yeah, I just it helps just keep me uplifted, right? It's encouraging, it's edifying. Human Context is asking, if I ever get to produce a remake of the Ten Commandments, do you want to play Moses? Well, I'd have to work on the beard game for sure, unless you want to get a fake beard on me. And then Jess wouldn't probably allow me to grow the beard for such a production, but maybe, brother, maybe if you think that I'm someone who can step in the shoes of a Charlton Heston like figure, perhaps. But I'm certain there's better people you could cast for such a role. But I'm honored that you'd ask me. So you're saying Ken should play Aaron. Just saying Sean would play Moses. There you go. Okay. You want me to be a high priest? Whew. I don't know. I'd probably be more of a, I don't know. Who would I be? I can't say Joshua. He was super courageous. My courage game has to go up a little more for me to play that. I'll do the soundtrack in the background. How's that? Who else we got in here? Love y'all. Anchor to Truth is singing. Love y'all. Shalom. Shalom, guys. Happy unleavened bread. Carrie Ann says, the connection with you all is great. Thank you. Yes, we have a pretty awesome community. We got to keep it going, keep it strong, and keep it loving, right? Because that's one of the commandments that Yeshua talks about is, he commanded his disciples to love each other as I've loved you. And so we need to work on our loving game and, rub elbows with people who want to act in that manner as opposed to just accusing people of being heretics and teaching wrong things and all that stuff. I think we need more loving. I do. Jeff Porter saying, don't sell yourself short, Ken. Moses had problems talking. Yeah, my talking game probably isn't amazing either. Yeah, so maybe I would be a good Moses. Walking in love is so important. Awake and blessed at the beach. Yes, it is. It is, guys. It really is. All right. Thank you so much for entertaining my nostalgia, going back in time and bringing up some things of the past when I was a kid. I'm sure you guys all have your own little stories. Love to hear them. But let's get into what I wanted to talk about today. Let's pull this up here. So this is the Creation Solar Calendar. This is the calendar that I believe that Yeshua and his disciples were adhering to. If you do not have a copy, head on over to Patreon. Hang on his words Patreon. It's there as a downloadable PDF for those of you who are interested. If you don't have a physical copy yet, I unfortunately don't have any. I did have some calendars available, but they're all gone. So the PDF is now available. If you're a bit behind and you want to get onto this calendar, go check it out. So yes, this is what it looks like. This is kind of how it's laid out, how I've laid it out. So as you can see, hopefully it's, decently legible on screen here. It's about as far as I can zoom it in. But as you can see, the first day of month 1 starts on what we would call Wednesday on the Gregorian calendar. Because unfortunately, we can't divorce ourselves completely from the Gregorian calendar. It's, that's just part of our modern society. It's what the world essentially uses. And so, we can practice the best we can on the solar calendar and try to adhere to that the best we can. And spiritually, we can link ourselves to that, but we're stuck with this Gregorian calendar when it comes to everything else in life and society. And so it'd be awesome to depart fully from that. I think we're going to do that eventually. And some people can, have made it a mission of theirs to get completely off of Gregorian and right onto this calendar with everything. And that's awesome. I'm glad you can do it. I can't. Just where I work, what I do, how I function in society outside of spiritual stuff. We're still having to deal with it, unfortunately. So as you can see, the first day of month 1 starts on day 4. The reason why we did that and why this calendar in particular claims that is because the luminaries were created on day 4. And the calendar itself is based off of the sun. It's a 364-day year calendar, and the literal calendar started on day number 4 of creation. It's when peacekeeping started. It's when, timekeeping essentially did start when it comes to the calendar itself. And so that's why we have that day started when it does, in a nutshell. And so when you go to the 10th day on this calendar, which would be a Friday, day number 6 of the week, we have this lamb goat selection. And so let me just pull this other thing up here, add this to the stage there we go. So this is the timeline. Again, this can be downloaded over on my Patreon page. It's probably buried somewhat down into the page because I posted it a couple of years ago for those who could, who'd want to be interested in seeing kind of the scriptures that I've linked to this timeline. And if you wanted to download it, you can. So you have to find it there, and hopefully you can read it. I know that the print is somewhat small, but it's hard when you're jamming so much information into a graphic like this. It's hard to keep it super legible, but I think it works. So if you can see with me at the top at the left where it says Passover lamb kept from the 10th to the 14th, and this is a command out of Exodus 12, 1-6. I put it where I did. If you see, it's kind of linked down to where it says Tuesday the 14th. I put it down there because I wanted people to be reminded that the Passover lamb was to be kept from the 10th all the way up to the 14th. It's just just a detail that I wanted to include in this timeline. And actually, this is a second part of a timeline. There was a first part where I go into the week before this Passover week, and it talks about days leading up to the Passover. There's certain little events, kind of give you a little bit more context. I didn't want to go through that tonight. So that's part of the PDF download if you guys are interested in that. But anyway, so here we have Exodus 12, 1-6. Let me just pull that up. Let me pull that up on the screen here. Screen share. All right. It says, now Yahweh said to Moses, and this is out of the Legacy Standard Bible. It's one of my favorite editions. I love it. Now Yahweh said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, this month shall be the beginning of months for you. It is to be the first month of the year to you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, they are each one to take a lamb for themselves, according to their households, a lamb for each household. Now, if the household is too small for a lamb, then he and his neighbor nearest to his house are to take one according to the number of persons in them. According to what each man should eat, you are to apportion the lamb. Your lamb shall be a male. All right, so here we get some more specifics, right? On the 10th day of the month, you are to select for yourself a lamb, and you're to hold it until the 14th. When we get to it, the lamb is to be a male, without blemish, a year old. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. There we go. So we get the sheep and the goats. Yeah, one or the other if you want. It's got to be at least a year old. It's got to be a male and without blemish. Now I can't speak to what that means without blemish. I don't know what kind of criteria that falls under. I don't like. Can it not have little speckles on it? Does it have to be completely pure white? If it's missing an eyeball, yeah, I would assume that means a blemish. Its ear is all mangled up or something, or I don't know. I'm not 100% sure what is required for that. If you guys know in the comments, if you have some more insight on what an unblemished lamb would look like and what a blemished lamb compared to a blemished lamb, just let me know. Is it just obvious, like if it's missing a limb, or if it has two heads? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but that's a detail that's included in this. That's got to be without blemish. Verse 6, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall slaughter it at twilight. Okay, so we're keeping it until the 14th day of the same month being the first month, as it was mentioned back in verse 2. And then they're to slaughter it at twilight. All right, so if we go back to this guy here, they kept it up until the evening of Tuesday the 14th. Okay, so this is, again, I'm including the names of the Gregorian days, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as you can see here. So the 14th, according to the calendar, and I'm going to be switching back and forth here between these screens, was on a Tuesday. It's the third day of the week. And so that's when Passover is to be kept. So that's what I'm asserting on this calendar is on the third day of the week, which we call a Tuesday. And why that's relevant, we're going to see as we unfold, some of the other scriptures along the timeline here. Okay, so if you can see the second bulleted point that's right beside the one I just read at the top there, Passover lamb kept from 10th to 14th. Disciples ask where to prepare the Passover. So we're going to go to, if you can see the scriptures below, Matt, we'll check out Matthew 26, 17 to 19 real quick. Matthew 26. Pull this up on screen here. That. All right. So we have now on the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover?" And he said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, the teacher says, my time is near. I'm keeping the Passover at your house with my disciples." And the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. All right, so one of the reasons why I want to bring this up, guys, is because there's people within this Torah community who don't believe that the Last Supper was a Passover. I've heard differing opinions on what it could be. You know, was it a graduation meal? Was it the official inauguration of Yeshua into his priesthood? I think I've heard of a couple other ones. I can't remember off the top of my head. But all I have to say is, if you read the text and just to see what it says, it sounds to me that he is instructing his disciples to go and prepare the Passover meal. So if you looked at verse 17 there, the writer says, now on the first day of unleavened bread. So what's interesting about that is back in those days, they paired the two feast days together as one. They were almost a synonymously named feast. So unleavened bread, if you're participating in unleavened bread, you're also participating in Passover. If you're saying I'm participating in Passover, you're participating in unleavened bread as well. It's almost like a twofold feast. However, the Passover has to be kept at the fore of that weekly feast day, feast time. And so, you know, people kind of struggle with that, with how they're interchangeably used through the scriptures. But just keep that in mind, that was just a cultural way of describing and calling the feasts themselves, just so we're not confused with that. But I mean, you know, when you read this, verse 18, the teacher says, my time is near. I am keeping the Passover at your house with my disciples. This is what Yeshua tells his disciples to go and tell this man whose room they want to use, to tell him that his time is near, and I am keeping the Passover at your house with my disciples. I mean, that to me is straightforward. There's no ambiguity there. There's no like, let's dissect this. What could this really mean? I mean, it means that he's asking to use that room to keep the Passover with his disciples there. There's no other way of interpreting it. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because people struggle mainly with the book of John. It's mainly with the book of John. You know, when you compare the other synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and we'll look at, actually, let's just look at the other ones. So Mark 14:12, let me pull that one up real quick. Mark 14:12. All right, so it says here, and on the first day of unleavened bread, again, we have that mention of unleavened bread being the first day. It's linked to the Passover. When the Passover lamb was being sacrificed, his disciples said to him, where do you want us to go and prepare for you to eat the Passover? I mean, that matches perfectly with what we just read in Matthew. Again, it's the disciples asking Yeshua, where does he want them to go to prepare so that they can eat the Passover? So it's clearly the Passover, according to these verses, that they're, you know, going to celebrate, they're going to participate in. One last verse here that I have under that heading is Luke 22:8-13. Let's just read that as well. Luke 22. Got that pulled up on screen here. All right. We'll start with verse 7. Then came the first day of unleavened bread on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. And Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, Go and prepare the Passover for us, so that we may eat it. And they said to him, Where do you want us to prepare it? And he said to them, Behold, after you have entered the city, a man will meet you carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house that he enters. And you shall say to the owner of the house, The teacher says to you, Where is the guest room in which I may eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will show you a large furnished upper room. Prepare it there. And they left and found everything just as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover. All right. There again, there's no other way. You can't get out of that, in my opinion. Like it's pretty clear, pretty concise, succinct. They're going to prepare the Passover. That's the upper room that's furnished, that they have the Last Supper in. All right, and so let's look at the next heading. The Passover lamb is slaughtered. So we have I'm going to skip Exodus 6 verse 8 there underneath that heading, but I'm going to go to Jubilees 49 verse 12. So let me just screen share that real quick. Stop that. All right, let me zoom that in a bit. Jubilees 49 verse 12 says, Let the children of Israel, well, I'm going to start back in verse 10. Let the children of Israel come and observe the Passover on the day of its fixed time, on the 14th day of the first month, between the evenings, from the third part of the day to the third part of the night. For 2 portions of the day are given to light, and a third part to the evening. This is that which the Lord commanded you, that you should observe it between the evenings. And it is not permissible to slay it during any period of the light, but during the period bordering on the evening. And let them eat it at the time of the evening until the third part of the night, and whatever is left over of all its flesh from the third part of the night and onwards, let them burn it with fire. So again, we got some more details regarding when the Passover lamb is to be slaughtered. It's not to be done during any part of the day, but this is interesting. Book of Jubilees is the only writing within the category of the Mosaic writings, I would consider it, that gives us this description about what day and night looks like in terms of it being split up. So verse 10 says, it's to be kept between the evenings, from the third part of the day to the third part of the night. For 2 portions of the day are given to the light. So the day, what we call daytime, is split up. There's 3 parts to it. 2 portions are the day that's given to the light, and a third part is given to the evening. So it's during this third part where it starts to border on, like, the sun's starting to go down. You know, the twilight is starting to happen. It's getting a little darker. That is when you're to slaughter the lamb, and then you can keep it apparently from that point, which is called an evening, because at that point when the sun goes down, that's when the next day starts. That's when the 15th day starts. It starts in the evening when the sun goes down, and it's kept until the following evening. Or the 15th is until the following evening. But the Passover lamb itself is to be slaughtered at twilight and then consumed from that portion of that third portion, that there's 3 parts of the day again. 2 of them are given to the light. One is kind of like a twilight part of the day. It's at that point you slaughter the lamb, and then you eat it from that point onward, which kicks off unleavened bread. And you keep it all, you can, if you want, keep it all through the night until the third part of the night. I don't do that. I'm not someone who stays up that late. We have it during the evening or whatever, and then my wife and we go to bed. We go to bed at a decent little hour. So if you're someone who's who likes to celebrate things for long periods of time, and you got a community around you, and you're super joyful, and you like to dance around, play music, and whatever else you like to do, you can get into the wine, which is interesting, right? This is one of the aspects of the Last Supper where Yeshua is holding up, the cup, the fruit of the vine. That was wine. That was part of the Passover meal. Where do we get that instruction from? Only Jubilees. Only in the book of Jubilees. Where was it? It's in this same chapter. Can't remember exactly where. But it says that Israel was eating the paschal lamb. They were blessing the Lord. They were praising the God of their fathers, and they were drinking the wine. So that's one of the parts of the instruction. That's one of the aspects of keeping this festival, is to drink the fruit of the vine. And only the book of Jubilees gives us that little detail. So that's really interesting. And actually, I've heard for those who don't believe that the Last Supper was a Passover, they'll use this idea like, well, he was using wine, he was drinking wine. That's not part of the Passover. Where do we see that instruction in the book of Exodus or in any of the Torah? We don't see that anywhere, right? So it obviously it couldn't have been a Passover meal. Well, and that's where the controversy starts. You start looking into other books that were in ancient Israel's possession, and the book of Jubilees was one of those books. And so that's where Moses, gives us the detail that Israel was drinking wine that night. And so, they kept up with that tradition. I do too. We had our wine, and by our, I mean, I had my wine. My wife's pregnant. She hasn't been drinking at all. She's responsible. She had her grape juice, grape, cranberry, blueberry juice or whatever. It was like a mixture. And yeah, it's really the only time I'll drink is during the feast days. I know a lot of Christians struggle with the idea of drinking. Everyone's got their convictions when it comes to that stuff, but I drink during the feast days. I think it's fine. It's within reason, right? Chiar Cleave's saying, yeah, wine, no grapes at that time to be drinking grape juice. Yes, it was wine. It was strong drink. Bob says he agrees. Yeah, okay. I'm glad you agree, brother. A lot of people like to, again, because they're maybe brought up Baptist, have that type of background where drinking is forbidden. It was poo-pooed, and unfortunately, they take scriptures out of context to try to prove that. But I think Yahweh has given us spirits, right? Alcohol, wine in particular, to bring us joy, to increase in the merriness of the festivals, and obviously to do it responsibly and not to go over the edge, but to do it responsibly. And so I advocate for that. I do. I think there's nothing like clinking a glass with a fellow believer. It warms the cheeks up a little bit. It brings out more conversation. People relax a little more. I think there's something to it. I just do, and and it's been fun historically. For a few times I've done it in a communal sense with other believers, and so. But yes, we don't want to be stumbling blocks for those who don't drink, who have perhaps issues or traumas related to alcoholism in their family or their backgrounds, whatever. I understand why that stuff comes into play. And that's where we have to be discerning with, how we operate around other people. But it's definitely one of those things that Yeshua and his disciples had at the Last Supper. And it comes right out of Jubilees. So I think it's pretty cool. All right, let's keep going with this here. So yes, the last Passover supper is eaten. So let's go back to Matthew 26, 20 to 29. I'm going to pull those up real quick. Okay. Get that pulled up there. And it says, oops, I got to hold on. Sorry. I got to remove this. Stop screen. Sorry, guys. I'm toggling in between. Screens here. Okay, well, you can see that. All right, so now when evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with the 12 disciples, and as they were eating, again, this is in the context of being in the upper room. The disciples went into the town. They found the man that they were told that they would spot, and they told him, where can we go and prepare the Passover that we're going to have with our master? You're going to follow him. This is where they're at now, right? They're in this upper room that this man has provided for them, and this is where the Passover has been prepared. Now the evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with his 12 disciples, and as they were eating, he said, "Truly I say to you that one of you will betray me." And being deeply grieved, they each one began to say to him, "Surely not I, Lord." And he answered and said, "He who dipped his hand with me in the bowl is the one who will betray me. The Son of Man is going, just as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been good for that man if he had not been born." And Judas, who was betraying him, answered and said, "Surely not I, Rabbi." Jesus said to him, "You yourself said it." Now while they were eating, Jesus took some bread, and after blessing, he broke it, and giving it to the disciples, he said, "Take, eat, this is my body." So right here in verse 26, where it mentions the word bread, this is where some people have issue. They think, no, this can't be Passover. This can't be unleavened bread. This has to be something else because, it says Jesus took some bread. Therefore, it didn't specify. It didn't say he took some unleavened bread and after blessing. And I don't think that it has to say that. I don't think the writer needed to include that it was unleavened bread because the writer already told us that it was the first day of unleavened bread several verses earlier. So it'd be kind of redundant. He didn't feel the need to include that as a detail to the audience that he was writing to. So I don't think that's a good argument personally, but some people use that as a way to try to claim that this wasn't a Passover meal. I don't think it's a strong argument. Verse 27, and when he had taken a cup and given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for forgiveness of sins. But I say to you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." So that's kind of a cool little little claim that Yeshua makes there. Essentially saying that you'll be drinking wine in the kingdom. When his Father brings the kingdom as promised, as the biggest part of the covenant promise to everyone who's a believer, everyone who's anticipating to receive the promises, is that the kingdom will come with Yeshua. And it's at that juncture that he will allow himself access to the fruit of the vine again, and in the context of keeping feasts, in my opinion. And so it's interesting. So yeah, this is the pull this back up here. This is where the Last Supper is eaten. And so I'm just trying to give you guys, I'm not going to read them all. I'm a little bit behind on time here, but if you go, you can check out all the verses I use there to prove that this is the Last Supper is the meal that was spoken about in verses just prior to it. And so, yeah, Last Supper is taking place on the evening of Wednesday the 15th. And so one sec, what do I have here? Tuesday, Wednesday. Sorry, no, this would still be the 14th. I'm confused with my own timeline here. Yeah, no. So if you see the dotted lines in between Tuesday and Wednesday on screen, unfortunately, I don't have like it would be great to have the ability to put like a pointer on here, like a PowerPoint pointer, and I can show you on the screen what I'm pointing to, but you'll just have to navigate this thing yourself based off of where I'm verbally giving you the coordinates here. So it's between Tuesday the 14th and Wednesday the 15th. There's like these dotted lines here I put faintly, and it shows the Passover. So that's when they're having it. That's when this Last Supper is taking place. So they would have followed the instruction, right? The disciples, when they went to go prepare the Passover, they would have brought, in my opinion, they would have gotten the lamb or the goat, probably the lamb, brought it to the sanctuary, the temple, had it all slaughtered and all that, and then brought it back to eat in the upper room. I don't know how long that would have taken. Probably got thousands of people doing this, so I don't know how many priests are involved in all this. I'd love to just be able to, go through a time travel experience back to that and then see how it functioned literally and just watch it go down, because it's we only get like brief descriptions of things written in a text. And so, but yeah, so that's what they did. Last Supper is a Passover. That's my assertion. I know several other people, other ministries claim that as well. I think it's pretty clear in the text. John is the one that gives people so much trouble with it. And again, I cover that in the videos that I mentioned earlier in this live stream. I break down some of the wording, some of the things that they stumble upon, and I think I give a decent argument for what John is actually saying in that, especially when you compare it to the Synoptic Gospels, which are clear that it was a Passover meal. So this is taking place Tuesday evening into the start of Wednesday the 15th, which starts during the night, during evening. So we have Christ being crucified at the third hour, which is on Wednesday the 15th. So that if I pull this up here, Wednesday the 15th, as you can see, is the fourth day of the week. And it's it's on the 15th there, and it's while unleavened bread is taking place, which is a Sabbath. And so Christ, even though he's metaphorically referred to as our Passover lamb, a lot of people think it's imperative that we pair this metaphoric title that John calls him, John the Baptist calls him, like, behold, the Lamb of God who will take away the sins of the world. And I know who Paul calls him, the Passover lamb. This metaphor that's applied to Yeshua, they have to tie it to him literally being sacrificed on the Passover. Otherwise, none of this works. And I think that's just a big jump. It's a big jump that's based off of some tradition and some things that people think makes the most sense with their own timelines. But if we're basing it off of this calendar, which I think is the most accurate personally, Yeshua got crucified on unleavened bread. Unleavened bread, and if you want to call it Passover, you can, because again, it was synonymously referred to as the same feast. But literally, he didn't get he wasn't placed on the cross, nails driven through his hands and his feet when the Passover lambs were being slaughtered. That would have been the evening before, because again, it's pretty clear that he had the Passover itself, the feast, when the lamb was already slaughtered during that Last Supper event the night before. And so it's not a big deal, guys. For those of you who cling to that view, it's not like it takes away from what Yeshua accomplished, what he's going to accomplish in the future. It doesn't negate him being the Messiah. It doesn't take away from the fact that he suffered, and you know what I mean, like, just because it wasn't exactly on the Passover day itself. It doesn't have to line up like that. There's no prophecy that proves that he had to die on a Passover. So I just I challenge people who hold that view dearly to reevaluate that. Okay, so we have Jesus. Let's move on. Jesus dies at the 9th hour, which is 3 p.m. I got the verses just below that for your reference. I'm not gonna pull those up. But if you can see that 3 p.m. hour on Wednesday the 15th, yeah, it still lands within that little box there if you're following along the timeline of Wednesday the 15th. So roughly 3 p.m., right? Yeshua, and this is what it claims. This is when he gave up the ghost, gave up the spirit. He says, "It is finished. Into your hands I commend my spirit." And Yeshua breathes his last, right? And then he goes where all men go, because Yeshua is a man. And he, for those of us who, sorry, one sec. For those of us who have adhered to this calendar, so that would be today, right? So that's why I watched the Passion of the Christ today, to get me into the event itself, right? The significance, thinking about how today was the day that he got crucified on the cross 2,000 years ago, around 3 p.m. And so, being the Son of Man, being fully man, like all men, he died, and his spirit went back to the Father, as all spirits do, and his soul descended into Sheol. So his descent into Sheol took place, I believe, in the afternoon after he gave up his spirit. And so yeah, that would be the first day that we could say, again, because it's asserted that he was 3 days, 3 nights in the heart of the earth. That's what he said. He said he's not going to give a sign except for the sign of Jonah, for just as Jonah was 3 days, 3 nights in the belly of the fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days, 3 nights in the heart of the earth. And so that's what he was referring to when he was talking to the Pharisees about signs, right? And like, that's the only sign I'll give you. And so Jonah, for those of you who don't know, he died. Jonah, interestingly enough, that's another video teaching that you can find on my channel. A lot of people don't realize that, when you read the book of Jonah, as short as it is, you can read right past some of the most significant parts of that book. In chapter 2, where it talks about his, the moment he's cast off of the ship and he starts his descent into the sea, he actually drowns. He drowns, and his soul, it describes his soul and how it traverses through the bottom of the sea, through the mountains, and into Sheol itself, this compartment that I believe and many believe is literal. It's literally a part of the creation model itself, and that's where all men go when they die, to one of the 2 compartments. And so Jonah would have gone to the righteous side of the compartment, even though in that moment he was being disobedient, a disobedient prophet of God. Yahweh heard Jonah's cry from Sheol, right? His cries in Sheol reached Yahweh's ears in his temple, and Yahweh, through his mercy, resurrected him. Literally resurrected him, extracted his soul out of Sheol, brought it back into his body, which so happened to be preserved in the fish. The fish was holding Jonah's body during this time as like a tomb. It's almost like Joseph of Arimathea's tomb. That's what this fish was acting like. And so it's preserving his body from being eaten by other marine life, likely, and so it spat him out. He came back into his natural body. Yeshua is different, obviously. He didn't come back into his earthy body. He came back into a different spiritual substance. But all that to say is that was the sign that was given to these folks, to the Pharisees. He said that this is the only sign that he would give. And so, pulling this back up here, Yeshua starts his his soul descent into Sheol when he gives up his last, dying breath, gives up his spirit on the cross at 3 p.m. that day, Wednesday, 3 p.m. And so I've got the first day of Sheol kind of in and around that evening sunset area. Technically, I guess it could be back a little bit further. It was hard to like jam all that in there, but hopefully you're understanding where I placed it. So if we take that literally, the claim that it would be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth, I think those are 3 literal days. I mean, we got a total of 72 hours, right? And you want to fast forward that, you just kind of jump from Wednesday the 15th, roughly 3 p.m., nearing the sunset time period where it would start into the 16th. You just jump, leapfrog ahead 3 days, 72 hours, and it gets us to about Saturday evening, probably Saturday late afternoonish. And so I do want to pull up some of these scriptures. What is it, Matthew 28, 1-6? I can barely see that on my own screen. I apologize again, guys. It's I couldn't zoom this graphic in. Matthew 28, 1-6. Let me just pull this up on screen. Obviously, this is what we want to highlight, right? This is the focus, that he didn't remain in Sheol. His soul wasn't kept in Sheol, nor did his body undergo decay. So that's it's an amazing feat that Yeshua accomplished here. All right, let me remove this. All right, so chapter 28, let's read the first few verses here. Now, after the Sabbath, as it began to dawn, toward the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to look at the grave. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled away the stone and sat upon it. And his appearance was like lightning, and his clothing as white as snow. And the guards quaked from fear of him and became like dead men. And the angel answered, said to the women, do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who has been crucified. He's not here, for he is risen, just as he said. Come, see the place where he was lying. So what's interesting about this is that it's claiming now after the Sabbath. Okay, so we're after the Sabbath is over. We're at the start of the week again. The week itself. If you see here, if you follow along on the 19th, it says that would be the first day, right? The Sunday. So the previous day, the 18th, would be the Sabbath. So after that Sabbath was done, this event is happening now on the first day, what we call Sunday on the Gregorian calendar, which is on the 19th. And that's what this event is highlighting here. And so these angels are coming down, right? There's a great earthquake. The Marys are coming to the grave. And these angels are asserting he's not here. Now, I don't believe that Yeshua resurrected in this very moment. I think he was already previously resurrected. I think that, back, if I can pull this back up here, back late Saturday evening, like Saturday afternoonish, between probably 3 and, the evening, sometime thereof. I don't know how long it takes. Like, if we're taking this absolutely literal, I don't know how long it took Yeshua's soul to descend into Sheol. I don't know. Does it take hours? Does it take seconds? Is it instantaneous as soon as the spirit is drawn out of a man's body? Do they depart into that compartment instantaneously? Well, according to 2nd Esdras chapter 7, it appears that, whether or not that's a legitimate text, I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure it's most of you guys who've been following this channel and other channels like West Blaze Music, Kingdom in Context, we've touched on that chapter. I'm not 100% sure where I land on that chapter, to be honest with you. I do believe 2nd Esdras itself is a legitimate book. I do consider it scripture. It's just that there was this one segment of chapter 7, several verses in it that were found in other manuscripts that are missing in others, and I'm not sure what I think about them. I think they're pretty amazing the way that they're described. There's some things about them that don't sit right with me, but if they are legit, it seems like a righteous man can take a tour around the creation for a little while. So again, what is interesting is that it does highlight that angels come and take the soul and escort it to the compartments within Sheol, whether righteous or unrighteous. Because there are angels within the creation model that are in charge of all the various compartments within the creation model, and obviously within Sheol itself as described. And so I don't know how that works. I don't know how that worked with Yeshua. But I don't think it really matters, to be honest with you, because again, this works in my opinion. Let's say it's exact, it's instantaneous. He dies 3 p.m. Wednesday the 15th. Instantly in Sheol, it starts the clock for 72 hours, literally 3 days, 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Then we have him resurrecting Saturday, 3 p.m., let's say. That's fine. That doesn't do anything with the scriptures that I just read here, because it's just all it's just saying is now after the Sabbath, the Marys came to try to find him, right? He was gone. He was already out of there. He didn't need the angels to roll away the stone so that he could be like, oh, I'm coming out. Oh, good. Okay, now I'm out. Yeah. Like he could, as it's described to us, he can show up and disappear and vanish, right? He can pass through matter with his body. It's a spiritual body. You want to learn more about spiritual bodies? 1 Corinthians chapter 15, Paul does a very good job in that, differentiating between an earthly body and a spiritual body. They're literal, tangible bodies, both of them, but one has a higher capacity, a higher power than the other. And one of these things that a spiritual body can display and possess is passing through solid matter. And he did that when the disciples were all in a locked room, as John says in his account. And he showed up and he says, Shalom Aleichem, peace be with you, right? And they were fearful. They thought they were seeing a ghost, right? Because of how he manifested himself. He didn't knock on the door and they opened it up for him. He just shows up. So all that to say is he didn't need the angels to come roll away the stone for him, right? From what I gather, he resurrected during the time I just mentioned, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening-ish, whatever, and walked through the tomb, right? Passed through the tomb with his new body, and who knows what he was doing? I don't know. It's maybe he was experiencing his new body and flying around and going into the ocean and swim. I don't know. We have no idea what he was doing with his new body. We just know that he shows up to the Marys first. She's grabbing on him. He says, don't cling to me. I've not yet ascended to my Father, but go tell my brothers, that I'm ascending to my God and your God and all that stuff, right? And then he disappears again. And then he shows up to the disciples on the road to Emmaus and spends some time with them. So he's moving around. He's experiencing his body. And I don't think it's a grasp at straws to think that he, resurrects when I claim that he does on this timeline, and is just doing his thing. And he decides to show up on the first day after the angels come down. The Marys are coming after the Sabbath. The angels come down, shove the stone out of the way, roll it out. And they're like, hey, look, he's not in here anymore. He's probably been out for many hours already. Right. He's doing his thing in his new body. All right. Let me pull this back up. So yeah, that's my claim. That's what I believe. I think that works on this timeline. I think it works on this calendar. I think, yeah, that Passover was on literally the 14th of the first month, which would have been the third day of the week, which is a Tuesday on our calendar. And the math works out just well, just perfect. He ends up he's the Lord of the Sabbath. He resurrects on a Sabbath still. Possibly Saturday afternoon. Could be 3 p.m. right when he died. Around the same time when he died on that Wednesday. It works out just fine. A lot of people struggle with the math. They want to claim that all right. They want to claim that it wasn't a literal 3 days, 3 nights. It makes zero sense for Good Friday, right? I mean, they've got him in the tomb for such a short amount of time. They're really doing that Common Core math to explain that stuff away. But on this calendar, it works just perfectly. You can take his word literally. You can, and Yeshua himself tells us in the Gospels that is there not 12 hours to the day? So he gives us a tangible, real numerical assertion in that passage, claiming that there's 12 hours in the day, therefore there's 12 hours in the night. It's 24 hours in one day. 3 days, 72 hours. The math works perfectly, in my opinion. But I just wanted to share that, guys. I want to share that timeline. That's how I see that whole week working. So, interestingly enough, if we're thinking back 2,000 years, if we're on the right timeline-ish right now, Yeshua's, he's only on day 1 right now of his time in the heart of the earth in Sheol. So I hope Mel Gibson makes that movie. I hope he makes that movie about Yeshua's experience in the heart of the earth. I feel like it's going to be wild, right? I think he claims that there's like 2 different scripts that he's working off of or considering. He like describes one as like an acid trip where there's fallen angels and there's hell and there's this and that, right? So I'm assuming obviously he's going to be pulling from like maybe First Enoch, a couple other sources. You can tell him being a Catholic that he pulled from other sources for the Passion of the Christ. There's a couple names that are mentioned of the 2 thieves on the cross that you only find in like the Gospel of Barnabas or something like that. That are obviously not in the New Testament anywhere. So he tends to, pull from other sources to kind of help his storytelling. But that's fine. That's fine by me. So yeah, it seems like he's going to be looking at the angels. Genesis 6. I don't know. He describes it as a wild acid trip, and so could be interesting, man. It could be eye-opening for folks. Obviously, for someone of his clout and his abilities to filmmake, to open people's eyes. You know what I mean? I know a lot of Christians who watched The Passion of the Christ years ago, and it got them opening their Bibles more. So if he does something similarly with this film, if he ever gets it out, it'll get people wondering, whoa, yeah, what did Christ do for those 3 days? Where did he go? And if Mel Gibson does it right, it could get people really looking at this creation model in a different way. So that might be cool. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, all that to say, Christ is in the heart of the earth now. He's resurrecting in a couple days. Gonna look forward to that. Gonna think on that. I hope you guys who participate in these events, think about that stuff, right? My geeky mind goes to those places. It helps me. It helps build my faith a little more. It helps me think more about our Messiah and everything he underwent. The fact that he was a man, had to go through the experiences he went through, was willing to go to the cross for us, died for us, go to Sheol, just like all other men have and will continue to do until he returns. It's wild, our King led by example, leads by example. He does all the things that all men do, and it's really interesting. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's any questions, guys. I went a little longer. I was supposed to go back up to see my wife. I told her only an hour, but I rambled on, of course. But I needed it. I needed that tonight. because I love you guys, and I don't do this enough. I want to do this more, honestly, and I think I'm going to. What are you guys' thoughts? What are your thoughts on the timeline? Do you disagree? Do you see things differently? Yeah. Deborah Dots is saying Jesus is God. Okay. Well, yes and no. I'll just leave it at that. I got videos here on the channel if you're interested. Depends on what you mean by that. Tracy's saying, I love you too, brother. Love you, sister. Just looking back into some of the later chats here. So Deborah's saying Yeshua ate the Last Supper on Monday evening. I'm not sure what resources you're using to assert that, but I don't see that. Yeah, I get why you assert this. He was crucified on Tuesday morning and had to be taken off the cross before Sabbath started. So the first day of unleavened bread was technically a Sabbath. But again, there's some translational stuff from what I've discovered, specifically looking into the Aramaic English New Testament. I know there's mixed reviews on that resource, and I understand why there are mixed reviews, but there's some good scholarship in that too, and it led me to looking into some of the verbiage that's used in the book of John regarding certain passages that make you think, well, wait a minute, it seems like all this is happening around a Sabbath time, but like, is it the Friday night? Like, is it the weekly Sabbath? What is it? The high Sabbath? The day of preparation it talks about, and how they had to have him off the cross before the day of preparation. What is this? All this verbiage doesn't. They make certain claims in that scholarship within that AENT resource that helped me have a better look at what was possibly being referred to in the original Hebrew of some of the manuscripts of John. And so I recommend people check that out. But yeah, no, I don't see Monday being the night that he had the Passover. I believe it was Tuesday night. What else we got here? Suzanne Jean saying, blessings to Ken and Jessica. I enjoy learning from your videos. Thank you, sister. Appreciate you. Blessings to you too. Sandra Mars saying she agrees with the timeline. Awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, you always got to leave room to be wrong, right? Been wrong so many times in my life. Seems like there's always new scholarship popping up, and so you have to consider new stuff if you care. I think that's one of the things I'm learning more as I get older, is that my zeal for the studiousness that I used to have is slowly diminishing, because it seems like new scholarship says this, or there's new that, and it's hard because you want to land on a hard truth, right? You want to land on something that's like solid, this works, it's unchangeable, it can't be moved, and then you discover something years later and it's like, oh, it can be moved, it's not as solid as I thought. So I've been in a bit of a stage the last several months where I'm just like, I'm finding it hard to study and to concern myself with some of these things. So if I could have your prayers, I guess maybe is what I'm asking, just that I would have that zeal, that passion for what I used to have before when it comes to studying and researching and digging into these things. It's become a little bit burdensome to me. Obviously this is just part of having a channel that's growing, and I'm thankful for that. But you get so many different people commenting and asking questions and leaving emails and saying you're wrong, or should you consider this? And then your day is wrapped up in spending time looking at all sorts of different things, and it becomes impossible. So I'm learning, and I've always been a slow learner, but I am learning to mitigate that in a way where I'm not answering everybody anymore, or responding, or if I entertain an email with somebody who has a question and it leads to 30 more responses, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't have time. I don't have the time, unfortunately. I wish I did, and it hurts my heart when I can't get back to everybody, because I don't want anybody to feel like I'm ignoring them or don't care about what they have to say, even in disagreements. I don't want people to think that I'm ignoring them or aren't valuing them and their insight. But it's only so much time in the day, and it's the old adage is true. It's, it seems like as you get older, it just, you have less of it. Right. And so I'm going to be a father soon, and I'm assuming I'm going to have even more, or even less rather, time to engage in such things. So I have to prioritize what I want to spend my time on and what I want to do. And I think I have to go back to my first love, and that's like making videos, teaching the gospel message of God's kingdom. And there's all sorts of different aspects to that, of course. But I just don't have as much time as I used to study out major topics. All that to say, I'm not saying I'm not going to ever study anymore, or challenge any of my views or anything. Of course not. But it can be hard. It's been a little burdensome, is all I'm saying, to sum it up. It's been a little burdensome on me. So if I could have your prayers, guys, just to have the passion again, for it all, because it's dwindled. It's dwindled. And for those of you who know or may not know, I recently deactivated my Facebook account. So you're not blocked. I had to get off. I had to get off just for my own, mental health. And it's not even just the debating and the questions and the this and that goes on. It's a lot of it is just coming across, news related stuff, geopolitical issues, things that, weigh you down. They mess with your spirit. And so, I had to have a conversation with my wife about that all. And I was like, I guess I got to just remove myself from social media and take a little break. So I'm taking a little break, guys, from that. I'll be posting things on like the community tab on this channel from time to time. And of course, I'm going to be uploading videos as I can get to them, and do more live streaming. But yeah, interacting on Facebook and groups and this and that, that's I don't see myself having the endurance for that anymore, unfortunately. At least not for now. I'm going to take a nice little break. I'm saying until after our son Asher is born, and then I might entertain coming back in and doing all that. But for now, this is, I think, what I've chosen to do, and I'm sticking to that. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Love you guys as well. Love you as well. There's nothing wrong with taking breaks, right? We all need it. But hopefully this was a blessing, guys. I hope these feasts are super meaningful for you. I hope they force you to dig more into the scriptures. I hope it causes you to share it with, this information with your friends and your family more. It gives you the courage to do so. And I hope it causes you to draw closer to, your Savior and your relationship with Yahweh. Yeah, I really hope that for you guys. And I'm so thankful for you guys and your support, your love, all of it. I really do appreciate you. If there's one thing that I want to leave with you guys is like just edification, right? I want you to be edified. I want you to be enthralled with this message. I want it to rejuvenate you. I want it to continue to provide a spark that keeps you motivated to go, because it's a hard world. And yeah, that's part of what I want to do. And so hopefully it does that for you. But I also need that from you too, right? It's a two-way street, I guess. Like I kind of need that from the community too. Just some encouragement as well to get back on the horse with things and all that. Anyways, I love you guys. If you enjoyed this live stream, please hit that like button, that thumbs up. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. I also have a channel over on Rumble. you wouldn't mind giving me a sub over there as well. I'll upload my videos there slowly, as I don't know how long YouTube's going to allow me to do this. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that'd be great. I really do appreciate it. So we'll see you guys on the next one, and I really do appreciate you. Love you. Love one another, right? As Christ loved us, loved his disciples. Learn what that means and really walk in that. And you're really keeping the spirit of the law when you do that. So may the rest of your unleavened bread week, if you're on this calendar, be a blessing to you. And rejoice that our Messiah has resurrected. It's already done, right? He's already our high priest in heaven's tabernacle, faithfully ministering on our behalf before the Father. So it's already done, but think about it. Extract yourself in this moment to back then. He's in the grave, but he's coming out, and he's already come out. So it's amazing. We have an amazing Savior who loves us, and I can't wait to meet him. I can't wait to meet you guys. I can't wait for the kingdom to come so we can all meet each other and just live as Yahweh has always intended for us to live. So encourage each other with that message, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Love you.
Have you tried Sanctified Blend coffee yet? This stuff is organically grown, then roasted in the USA by Moose Run Coffee. If you like a smooth cup of joe, then head on over to sanctifiedsupplyco.com and use the discount code KEN10 when you check out to save 10% on your order. Bold flavor for bold believers.
This is good stuff.